Maddie Dennis.
I'm Aiden Hubble.
I'm Arabella Davis.
I'm Rachel Becker.
For our HFB project, our history project, we researched the topic Bloody Sunday. So here on our poster we have the timeline. So the first event that we have is October 1968 is the start date of the Troubles. And then it goes to August 1969 when rioting spread across Northern Ireland. March 1970, disturbances in Derry following a march to commemorate the Easter Rising. September 6, 1971 was the beginning of an anti-internment week throughout Derry. November 4th, 1971, the British Army moved in large numbers into Catholic areas of Derry. January 22nd, 1972, an anti-internment march was held in Derry. And then January 30th, which is Bloody Sunday. January 31st, 1972, the British Home Secretary made a statement quoting, "The Army returned the fire directed at them with aimed shots and inflicted a number of casualties on those who were attacking them with firearms and with bombs." February 2nd, the funerals of the 11 of the dead took place in Cregan and Derry. February 21st, the first session of the Widgery Tribunal was held. February 22nd, the official Irish Republic Army exploded a bomb at Aldershot military barracks, and this bomb was thought to be in retaliation against those who had carried out the Bloody Sunday killings. June 16th, John Johnston, who was 59 years old, one of the victims who had been shot twice, died. August 1973, the inquest into the deaths of Bloody Sunday was held. January 1992 is the 20th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, and relatives and friends made appeals for an independent inquiry of those events. June 20th, 1992, families set up a postcard campaign. January 1997, new evidence that soldiers were actually shooting from the top of Derry walls came into play. Channel 4 News broadcasted an interview with an anonymous paratrooper, and he admitted that unarmed civilians were targeted. January 24th, 1998, a march to commemorate the dead of Bloody Sunday took place in London. January 29th, 1998, Tony Blair announced the establishment of a new public inquiry. April 3rd, 1998, the second inquiry into the events of Bloody Sunday began. November 27th, British soldiers who were serving on Bloody Sunday were offered immunity. May 7th, 1999, the Bloody Sunday inquiry ruled that British soldiers who had fired their weapons were not allowed to remain anonymous. November 23rd, 2004, the main hearings of Bloody Sunday inquiry closed, and then June 15th of 2010, the publication of the Bloody Sunday inquiry.
The problem. On the afternoon of January 30th, 1972, 50,000 men, women, and children gathered in Bogside in a march against internment. As the march ensued, conflict arose. The thousands of people intended to move through the city center, but were stopped by the British Army. After this, the march proceeded to Free Derry Corner. Soon, young men began to throw rocks at the British soldiers on William Street, thus causing a riot. Around 3:55 p.m., the British Army began firing into the crowd. As quoted in the Museum of Free Derry, a standard Derry riot ensued gas and water cannons and rubber bullets. It still seemed to be a normal day in Free Derry. As the shooting continued, many were injured or killed. Most of the victims were shot while fleeing or helping the wounded. The shooting on this day were located in William Street, Roseville Street, and soon moved into Glenfadda Park. At the end of the day, the soldiers had wounded or killed around 30 people. Thus, catastrophic event left the people of Northern Ireland in shock. This was a Sunday the people of Northern Ireland would not forget. 2 investigations were launched, one under Lord Chief Justice Woodgry. Woodgry showed the unwavering support of the British Army, which his biased view of the shootings never doubted the story told by the soldiers. This is also shown for the rest of the fact that Woodgry refused to take evidence from the vast majority of civilian eyewitnesses. Time and time again, he stood with the British soldiers. This angered Derry people due to the fact that Derry people knew it was a lie, but had no voice loud enough to be heard. Their testimony was silenced.
Information. The march that led to the shootings of Bloody Sunday was a movement of thousands against internment. The march was organized by the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association. Before the march, the induction of internment led to 21 deaths in 3 days of rioting. The internment happened because of Operation Demetrius, the mass arrest and internment of 342 suspected with the IRA by the British Army. Because of the violence that followed after the operation, 7,000 people were fled or forced to leave their homes. Along with internment, many people were unhappy with the idea of one man, one vote, which was not equal due to the fact that if you had more land, you got more votes. This policy was unfair to Catholics because of the housing and job discrimination against them. Catholics were denied equal and fair housing from the public. Following the arrests came interrogation. Most saw these interrogations as inhuman and degrading, but didn't consider them as torture. This policy of internment lasted until December of 1975. By that time, 1,981 people had been interned, 1,874 nationalists and 107 loyalists.
So this is a diagram of the map of Londonderry where the shootings took place. The red tacks represent where everyone was killed, and the white tacks will represent where people were wounded.
Okay. Solutions. With the events that followed Bloody Sunday came lots of struggle, but through the struggle rose campaigns. The victims' families started the Bloody Sunday Initiative and the Bloody Sunday Justice Campaign. With these, they sought to bring national and international attention to the incident. Throughout the campaign, they came upon many roadblocks, from hidden evidence to corrupt inquiries. But after 38 years of struggle and hard work, the families achieved their goal. They had cleared their loved ones' names and forced the truth about Bloody Sunday to be admitted to the world. Their long campaign had been vindicated.
Okay, down here on our poster we have the list of the 28 victims who were either shot and injured or shot and killed. So we have John Johnson, who was 59, Jackie Duddy, 17, Alana Burke, 18, Thomas Harkin, 32, Peggy Deary, 31, Patrick Campbell, 51, Patrick McDade, 25, Michael Bradley, 22, Pius McCarran, 30, Patrick Brawley, 40, Damian Donaghy, 15, Daniel McGowan, 38, Hugh Gilmore, 17, Michael Kelly, 17, Michael McDade, 20, John Young, 17, William Nash, 19, Alec Nash, 51, Kevin McEely, 17, Joseph Friel, 22, Daniel DeLepsy, 32, Michael Quinn, 17, Joseph Mahan, 16, William McKenney, 27, Patrick O'Donnell, 41, Jim Ray, 22, Gerald Donahue, 17, Gerald McKinney, 35, and Patrick Doherty, 31.
The obstacles. While witnesses spoke out about the massacre, Lord Chief Justice Whiggery led a corrupt public inquiry. He exonerated the British Army and concluded that none of the dead or wounded is proved to have been shot whilst handling a firearm or bomb. There's a strong suspicion that some have been firing weapons or handling bombs. Others have been closely supporting them. While he had soldiers testify, the statements were twisted to follow the British government's version of the events. Along with this, Lord Whiggery, in 1972's report, did nothing to alleviate the suffering when it appointed the blame to the victims themselves. The inquiry by Whiggery was further proven to be deceitful when the victim's family, with help of Patricia Coyle, found a bag of eyewitness statements that had been taken in 1972. This bag was found underneath the stairs of the Bridget Bond house. This further explains how evidence was manipulated and how families were unjustly treated. On top of the corrupt investigation came the stigma around being associated with Bloody Sunday. The families faced many drawbacks because of this. As families searched for help from the community around them, they were faced with barriers. In the end, the events of Bloody Sunday were followed by a fueling fire of hatred towards the British Army. According to a report of the Second Inquiry into Bloody Sunday, that had increased resentment towards the British Army, allowing for years of conflict to follow.
Hope. The Bloody Sunday Initiative was formally established in August of 1989. The first thing they did was commission McCann to write Bloody Sunday, What Happened in Derry. As quoted in the Museum of Free Derry, its primary purpose was to focus national and international attention on Bloody Sunday as a justice issue. The families of the victims did not campaign for justice right away. The Bloody Sunday Justice Campaign was started 20 years after the incident. It originally started with about 50 people and only 7 or 8 families. This family-led campaign had only 3 demands: the repudiation of witchery and institution of a new inquiry, a formal acknowledgement of the innocence of all the victims, and the prosecution of those responsible for their deaths and injuries. In the beginning, the BSI and BSJC worked together until the BSI winded their mission. It eventually broke off. Soon after, they changed their name, Pat Finucane Center for Human Rights and Social Change. June 20th, 1992. Families set up postcard campaigns. Postcards had the 3 demands printed on them. The campaign launch of BSJC was a success, attracting lots of attention, especially from news networks. For most of the families, campaigning was a full-time job. The families put all of their time and effort into getting justice for their victims. The difficulty was trying to convince the world that the events that took place on that Sunday was a state-sanctioned massacre. Other than the families, the campaign received lots of outside help. Bishop of Derry, Dr. Edward Daly, was a priest most commonly known for waving the blood-stained handkerchief. Patricia Coyle, a trainee solicitor for Madden and Finucane, helped by looking into public records. Patricia found a black trunk containing 21 volumes of transcripts, one for each of the days of the Witchery Tribunal. The transcript had lain undisturbed for 20 years. With this, Patricia had found enough new evidence to write to the British Prime Minister in January 1994, requesting a new public inquiry. Along with them, Professor Dermot Walsh, Chair of Law at Limerick University, was the campaign's legal expert who was to ascend the new materials. In January of 1997, Channel 4 News broadcasted an interview with an anonymous soldier who had admitted that they had targeted unarmed civilians in the Bloody Sunday massacre. Then, on January 29, 1998, many gathered to hear the announcement of the new public inquiry into the events of Bloody Sunday by Tony Blair. 38 years later, the families had finally achieved their goal. A statement on behalf of the families declared, "The victims have been vindicated. The parachute regiment has been disgraced. The truth has been brought home at last. Woodry's great lie has been laid bare."
Okay, in this picture here, thousands file into the city cemetery to bury the Bloody Sunday dead. This picture here, in the streets during Bloody Sunday. Here we have Daly, who's on the right, on Bloody Sunday, an image which would be most recognizable moment of the Troubles as he's carrying the white handkerchief. And then here we have a mural of those who were killed.
In this picture here, we have Bloody Sunday Justice Campaign pictures outside the West End Park before taking their campaigns to the U.S. In this picture here, a man covers a bloody dead body. In this picture, soldier forcing civilians through the street.
Okay. In this photo, soldiers attack marchers on the waste ground at Rossville Flats. In the other photo, a priest gives the last rites to a demonstrator shot in the Bloody Sunday riots.
So this right here is a political cartoon that was made in retaliation for Bloody Sunday. Right here we have Father of Six Bernard McGillen, who was shot in the head as he attempted to help a dying man. In the back lies the body of a 17-year-old named Hugh Gilmore. Right here we have 13 people who were shot dead by British soldiers on Bloody Sunday. A 14th man later died from the injuries he sustained. Here we have a picture of protesters in Londonderry, Northern Ireland, carried pictures in January 1973 of civilians who were killed a year earlier on Bloody Sunday massacre.
Bloody Sunday, a tragic Sunday. The British, armed with guns, the marchers, armed with words. Shots rang among the unarmed crowd, shouting, blood, screams all over. 14 killed, 14 more injured. 28 innocent lives lost. So much pain they caused. Families without their loved ones. As the soldiers walk around through life as if they were just another Sunday, families weep for the ones they lost. As time passed, the people of Derry grew stronger. Courage started to build in them. A wanting for justice rang through the people. Campaigns started, voices shouting, telling their stories, the stories of the dead.
Thank the Lord you weren't there. Your family is safe and your friends unharmed, but everyone knows somebody who was lost to the troubles. My sister, genius, smartest of her class, is safe, but not the boy she waves at in the hall every day. The woman you saw out of the corner of your eye every other Thursday, a ghost in your imagination. A disturbance that ripples through every aspect of our lives. To fight for your rights, your basic human rights, a danger in its own.
How do I feel researching this massacre? It's hard to explain. In some ways, I felt like I was swimming in the Atlantic, with no land in sight, trying to stay afloat as the freezing water numbed my body, choking me with every wave. In some ways, I felt like I was in the middle of a maze, where the walls are impossibly high, blocking out everything except the sky above me. Every step I took, every turn I made, the more lost I got until I felt like I was going crazy. In some ways, I felt like I was on top of a skyscraper, surrounded by concrete and the blankness of the world, where I was just balancing on the edge, every breeze feeling it was going to push me over. I can't imagine the pain that these people have experienced to lose a friend, a child, a spouse. I feel so exhausted by all the pain that these people have experienced. I can only hope that they have gotten to a point where it doesn't feel like glass stabbing them with every breath, or a fire burning their soul until there's nothing left. I can only hope that they were still able to live.